Hello, welcome to The Calling and the Climb, a business podcast about a Christian founder who followed his calling and was surprised with the results. Philip, how are you doing?
Hey, Kent, I am good. You put it well. Followed my
Well,
calling and surprised with results. Some good surprises, some not so good. But yeah.
yes, indeed. Well, our last episode we talked about we're on exit strategy. You sold your company, and we are getting into the details for any founders, entrepreneurs, business owners who might want to sell someday. And so you're sharing your experience. We had just stopped at an amazing opportunity you had been able to take advantage of where you could grow. What happened next?
Okay. Yeah. So you accurately said um, I finally was able to get the resources, the money, build the infrastructure that we needed to host our growth. And so the next big thing was let's grow this thing. Let's grow. So there were some strategic steps involved. We had the resources, we had the money. Now, what is the map in front of us? Well, one of the things we had to do is we had to have a model for our growth. We had to have a rationale to grow. And so I felt like at this point in time, we had grown to a, a position where we were able to go after bigger clients. We were able to go after a different class of clients, meaning much higher number, higher head count, higher number of servers, computers, everything that we would be managing. And we had the staff now because of the extra resources from that project that we talked about. We were able to ramp up to handle that, but we had to have a model to go in and to take this into other law firms. And so what we came up with, and I'm not going to say I came up with it. We as a company, and there were a lot of minds that went into this. But what we decided to do was to consolidate all of the technology spending for a law firm into one monthly recurring dollar amount. Now, this
Okay.
is a long way from where I first started. When I first started, I billed my time for helping you with your email or with your computer, and everything else you paid on your own. You bought your computer, you bought your server, you paid for the internet, whatever, and I had nothing to do with that. But gradually, we began to take on more of those services. And so finally, we were in a position to develop a model where we could go into a client or a potential client and say, we you may be writing 20 checks or doing 20 ACHs a month for all these different products and services that are going into your firm, somehow related to technology. We had a model and we developed a model where we could consolidate all of that in through our company, and we would provide all those services through these vendors and so on, and we would you would write one check for all of your technology needs to us. And what would be wrapped up in that would be all of your software subscriptions, all of your cloud services, all of your internet, all of your phone, all of your cybersecurity protection, even our consulting services, desktop, server, backside consulting, all of that was wrapped up into one consolidated bill. And so we would go to the client and say, rather than writing all these different checks and having to negotiate these particular terms with all these vendors, some this year, some next year, some of them are coming due every year or whatever, we will take all that on and we'll bill you just one bill. It made it very simple for the client. So the advantage was that because now we had grown to a position, we had a relationship with all these vendors that are servicing into the legal market, and we had a decent amount of buying power because we were purchasing on behalf of all of our clients. And so we could get preferred pricing, whereas law firm X out here just calling in and we want pricing for this particular subscription to this application, they're going to get just off the shelf pricing. We could come in and get aggressive pricing because of our our spending power. And then we would use that to then put a package in front of the client that says, okay, rather than writing all these checks, write one check to us and we'll handle all of the details. Made it very, very attractive for the client.
And how did they respond to that?
Well, I'll get to that in just a minute
Oh, okay. All right.
because that was the next step.
Okay.
What I also wanted to do up until that point in time, all of my contracts had just been annual contracts, annual contracts.
Okay.
And some of these deals that we were doing, particularly with software vendors, were multi-year contracts. Some of the telephone deals, some of the internet deals, we were multi-year contracts. And so we said, okay, we need a multi-year contract as well because we want to wrap all those into
Of
one
course.
contract. So not only were they just going to pay one spend for technology to our company, but we were going to put them on multi-year contracts. And we started out with 3-year contracts. So we were
Okay.
going to our clients and say, we want, you don't have to worry about this 3 years. And obviously, we wanted it to be auto renewing. So it made it very difficult for them to change to another provider. And finding someone else that could do that at that particular time was kind of difficult anyway. We were sort of novel in this, at least in the areas where we were. So, to your point, we had the model, but we needed to validate it. Will this model actually work? And so we started with what? Our existing clients. So we had
Of
that was
course.
going to be the determining
Test group.
factor if this is going to be successful. Can the people that know us the best, can we convince them to go to this model? And that's
Got
sort
it.
of our first proof of concept. And so we needed buy-in from the existing clients. So our approach on this is that we would go in and we would do an assessment. Now, our existing clients, we just kind of did it gratis. We'll come in, we'll do assessment of everything you're spending on technology. Now, the dirty secret was most law firms, if they were handling it all themselves, had no idea what they were spending on technology because it's
I'll bet.
piecemeal, a little bit here, a little bit there, a little
Yep.
bit whatever, spread all around the P&L. They had no idea. So we would go in and do that detailed assessment, and we show them what they're spending on technology, and it was shocking. Are you kidding
Of
me?
course.
We are spending that amount on technology? So that was our first step, the assessment. Here's currently what you're spending under the model that you're using right now. And then we would come in and do a proposal. And we say, you know what? Instead of you negotiating with all these vendors on these irregular time frames, write one check and here it is. And obviously, we could show you're going to be spending less money and it's much simpler and you're going to get better service. I mean, it was
One phone call.
one phone call, one what the say one throat to choke, one throat to
Wait.
choke, and that was us.
I haven't heard that. That's good.
Yeah, and so what we found with our existing clients when we did that process, come in and do the assessment, show you what you're spending, having it all over the board, and now showing you under our consolidated multi-year contract one check, and they're like, it's a no-brainer.
Right.
Absolutely. No, they knew us.
Right.
They could trust us. So it wasn't that big of a leap for them, but we proved that the concept is viable. We got 100% acceptance from existing clients.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. For those that were on recurring,
Yeah, we're already,
we had just
yeah,
the
you were
one-offs here
already
and there.
dealing with.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And so we came up with the model, then we validated the model with existing clients. So then the next step was, okay, we've got a model that works. We've got an infrastructure to support it. We've got the money to go big on this. It's time to go big. So what we needed then is to pour gasoline on the fire to sell that model, to just get it
Hmm.
in as many places as we can and be strategic, particularly locations that we go to, geography that we would go to, and we did our market research. Here's the type of firms that we feel are in our sweet spot that we can hit first, and we identified where those areas were, those hot spots, and then we began to attack that. And to be honest with you, you've listened to earlier podcast episodes,
Right.
you'll know sales and marketing was my soft spot. I I,
Right.
I didn't feel like I had the expertise, and I felt like we had a good product, we had a good uh, infrastructure to support that, and there's no doubt we could execute on this. But I didn't feel good that I had the proper understanding of a sales and marketing effort to get it, to go big with this.
Okay.
Because to be honest with you, that's where we spent slash blew most of our money.
Yes.
So, Kent, here is where I sort of, I don't want to say that I just made a big fail. There's rationale behind what I did. And looking back
Okay.
now, hindsight is 2020.
Right.
We had all these pieces in place. I had my C-suite in place. I had the money. We had the infrastructure. We had the model. And I felt like, okay, I am tired. I've been doing this for 20 plus years
Right.
and I don't know sales and marketing. And that's what we need most right now.
Right.
I know now, I see that there is an exit potential, and now's the time to execute that. But I've never been there. I've never done that. I have no experience. I don't know anything about investment bankers. I don't know anything about multiples, EBITDA multiples or anything. I don't know anything about that. And so I discounted myself because of what I didn't know. And I
Okay.
began to talk to some people, talk to some recruiters, some advisors, and the advice I got, okay, I understand that. A lot of founders feel that way. Why don't you bring in sort of a veteran, seasoned executive, maybe that has taken some other companies and taken them to an exit. They have deep ties to the legal tech community and so on, and you hire them to be to basically
Yeah.
run the program, drive
Well,
the ship.
yes. That's what Google did, right? At with the two founders when they started to go public, is they got an experienced CEO.
So I'm not saying that in itself is bad. Uh, I don't think it is bad, but I'm going to just tell you my experience and just be
Yeah,
100% transparent here.
that's what we want.
And thinking about it now, as I've talked about going through every season of my business, as we grew at every level, I always felt inadequate at every step. I don't know how to do this, and then I would just push on through, and somehow we got through that and moved on to the next level. So feeling inadequate was nothing new to me. I had felt inadequate all along the way, but I still pushed on through. This was the first time I'm like, okay, this is too big for me just to fake it. And that was my thought
Okay.
process. There's a
Okay.
lot on the line
And
here. I have a lot of
yeah.
employees. I have a lot of people who have committed their time and energy to this enterprise, and I can't let them down. And so I felt like
Right.
I'm not the one to lead this. And so I went out, hired a recruiter. We interviewed a lot of people, and I chose someone to come in uh, to ultimately be the CEO of the organization. I still became the chairman. So that's what I did. And that was not 100% a failure. It was not. There was a lot of good things. This person had great experience, had some great systems, some great organization, some great sales and marketing ideas, and so on. Here's where I made my mistake, Kent. I'm just going to be 100% transparent. Once I got to that place, I've been under so much pressure for so long. I have been the guy that woke up every
Yeah.
day with the weight of this company.
Right.
And once I made that move and I kind of moved out of day to day operation and I became the chairman of the board and let this guy run it, I let my focus slip.
Okay.
I took my foot off the gas and I relaxed. And I'm
Okay.
not saying I couldn't have done that some, but I did not provide adequate oversight to what was going on at that point in time.
And in your defense, a chairman isn't supposed to be in the day to day, at least as I understand how most companies run. That's
Correct.
what the CEO is, the president is
Correct.
doing that day to day.
Correct.
So you were following the model per se, uh, but losing the focus when you're in a key stretch.
Yes.
You look back and you're like, ah,
Yep.
that might have been where things would drifted.
They definitely drifted. It wasn't all at once, it was over time, and there were some victories, there were some great victories, there were some
Yeah.
wins, and that's what, I was like, "Okay, this is happening. This is actually happening." And so that even fueled the sense even more, I don't have to keep my hand right on things. What we had was a mandate, and the mandate I handed to our leadership was, we have all these resources that are coming in from this big project that essentially was our funding to go to the next level. We don't know when that is going to run out, but here's what I want us to do. I'm giving us 2 years, and your
Okay.
mandate is to convert all of this one time, big time revenue that is coming in through a project, convert almost all of that into recurring revenue contracts. 2 years. That was the mandate. And so we went, and my plan was, if we are successful in that, then we will be prime ready to go to market at the end of that 2 years. As I mentioned, I sort of let my focus off. I kept meetings. I kept apprised. I got financials and that sort of thing. I don't want to say I was completely divorced, but I'm the founder, and
Yeah.
and it's just different when the founder knows every inch of that organization,
Yeah.
and
You created it.
that organization has your DNA in it.
Yeah.
And one bit of advice that I got before I hired someone is, you better make sure that whoever you get, you guys are as tight as everything. There's no daylight between you. You see eye to eye.
Oh, okay.
And Ken, I'm going to tell you, man, I made this a matter of prayer and fasting. Help me to
As you should.
help me to find the right guy.
Right.
And I felt like I had run through all those checks and balances, and I felt like this is it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go into great detail. I'm not going to disparage anybody or whatever,
No.
but over time there was a misalignment
Okay.
where the leadership was not fully in line with my values and my DNA of that organization, and it began to drift. And I didn't stop it. Either I didn't see it or I didn't want to see it because of the wins we were having. So it got to a point, well, the model worked. I can tell you the model worked. It was beautiful.
Okay.
We were successful in getting new clients. We were successful in breaking into new locations and new geographies. We were onboarding larger and larger clients. It was working. The problem was, we were blowing through cash, and we were spending way more money than we were raising in new revenue, and we were spending down our stockpile of funding at a very rapid rate. On top of that, there was a misalignment that I talked about,
Yep.
where it was just it the DNA of the organization was changing. That's all I can say. The DNA of the organization was changing, and it was not a direction that I wanted. And I
Okay.
didn't realize it until it got critical.
Ooh. Okay.
And I will tell you this, talk about those steps where you're like banging your head on the floor and praying, God, why? God, I ask you for direction. I ask for leading in making this decision. I prayed earnestly. It's not something I did flippantly. I did it prayerfully, but it was not working.
Hmm.
And it, man, it gutted me. That really gutted me because I felt like I've been through different things and I've prayed and I've gotten direction and God has seen me through. And here we are, and it's not working. As a matter of fact, it's beginning to turn on me.
What do you mean by turn on you?
If I had not stopped it when it did, we were going to be upside down on our finances very, very soon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Spending had gotten out of control. This is what
Okay.
happens when a founder is no longer in charge of making decisions. I've talked over and over again about
Right,
my
right.
miserly, my cheapness, I guess, or whatever in managing things
Thriftiness,
because
thrifty.
my thriftiness in managing the business because I saw it from the beginning when there was no money. And so I kept that mentality. We only spend what we need to spend. Only a founder has that mentality. I don't care how talented or whatever, you bring somebody else, they're spending somebody else's money, they don't have that mentality.
Okay. I can see that.
And so that sort of drift financially, along with the misalignment of values, brought it to a head. And I had to make a course correction at the end of 2 years. Whereas we were supposed to be ready to go to market, we were in a worse
Right.
position than we were the 2 years
Mm,
prior, at
got it.
least
In
on
that
paper.
sense,
Yeah.
on paper, yeah.
So I had to make a change, and it was a dramatic, dramatic change. And I remember when I made the announcement to the company. And normally, if I'm giving any kind of a lunch and learn, or we're just doing a company meeting and I'm up there talking, I'm just off the cuff. This was so important that I wrote out my remarks and read them. We had the whole company in Nashville, and then we had everybody remote on teleconference. And what I had to do was I had to get everybody's focus back on the main target. And I had to let people know that we're going to get back on track. And I had to do it in a way that didn't alienate people,
Yep.
didn't scare people. I didn't want people jumping ship. Now, sadly, we had to let people go. We had a lot of fat in the organization
Okay.
because the money was there and that was the easy thing to do. Just hire, just hire, just hire, just
Yep.
spend, just spend, just spend. You have to do that. Companies have to do that. It's not fun. It was painful. It was not fun. I lost a lot of sleep during that period of time,
Yeah.
but it was a necessary thing to get to the ultimate exit that I wanted to get to. And at that point in time, I didn't know when it was going to happen because now we have been thwarted on our timeline.
Yep.
So why do I tell that? Is not fun telling that story, and it still puzzles me why I had to go through that. I'm going to be honest.
Okay.
Still puzzles me. Two takeaways. Number one, you can be in the total will of God and still make moves that look like mistakes.
Okay.
You might say, Jesus, you made a mistake in choosing Judas.
Sure.
Or, God, you made a mistake anointing Saul king. That was God that picked Saul to be king in the Old
Yep.
Testament. Things happen. It's just life. And just because things don't work out, even when you prayerfully push, because we're not seeing the whole picture. We're not
Yep.
seeing the whole picture. And I heard somebody the other day talk about being an entrepreneur or entrepreneurship is kind of like a tapestry. When you see, like when I sold the business and all was successful and all was good, you look at that beautiful tapestry and it's like, whoa, man, you're an artist. That was fantastic. Turn that over and it's messy. and there's a lot of knots and there's a lot of zigzags.
Mm,
And right here, as I am driving to my end goal, I hit a dead end and had to turn around and come back.
mm. Yeah.
Don't know why, but I had to do that. What did I learn? I learned, boy, you're going to have to stay focused until you get to the end. You can't put
Okay.
this thing on auto drive. This is your baby,
Yep.
and you can't just take off on trips to the Mediterranean and hope that everything will go well. You can't do that. Until you sell this thing or give it up or whatever, you got to stay focused. So that was a lesson to me. Number 2, and I will cover this more in depth later. It is so easy in business to get bitter. I've seen it over and over again, even among family members. When you go into business and somebody does something you don't understand or is whatever upsets the apple cart, and they're on the outs. And it not only ruins the business, but it ruins relationships. So, a very hard lesson for me is learning grace and forgiveness, even when it's hard. It would rear its head again before the very end. But I'd already been through one test. And this test was, can you forgive? Can you pray for those that let you down, those that didn't perform according to what you expected or whatever, or maybe even were malicious? I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Can you forgive? That's probably don't hear a lot of business people talking about that because that's not a business concept. It's cutthroat.
Right.
You hurt me, I'm going to
Yep.
hurt you. Uh,
I'll win at all costs. Yeah.
exactly. But when you are following Christ, the number one thing, the only thing in the Lord's Prayer, the only thing that God asks you to do everything in the Lord's Prayer is God do this, God do this. The only thing in that prayer that you says, I will do, forgive those who trespass against me. It's the most important thing.
Yeah.
It took me a long time. It took me a lot of prayer and a lot of tears, but I had to get to that place where I'm not going to let this become a grudge. I'm not going to let this become an anchor to where I'm going. Can't do it. Resentment, revenge, bitterness can anchor you to the depths of the sea. And
Mm.
there was a chance right in this time I could have let it completely torpedo
Yeah.
my business. I had to pray through that. It
Okay.
did not happen, Kent, in one prayer meeting, I will tell you.
I'm sure it in certain parts, and then I'm sure it looped also where you had to re-pray through if
But I
something
will tell
else
you
happened
this,
down the road.
it's not a feeling. It's not a feeling, it's a choice. You
Okay.
can't make yourself feel, "Oh, I didn't get hurt by this." You can't do that. But you have the choice. Am I going to let this become a root of bitterness in me that just completely engulfs my life, my spirit? You've got that choice, and I had to make that choice. Not gonna let it do that. So, on that happy note, we're going to end this session on going big
Okay.
because we were now big, but we had to make a course correction and we had to make up some time.
Okay.
That's a better
That sounds
story,
great.
but I'll tell that next time.